he's about to take over an existing loan where the current loan is a FHA loan. So the answer for that is that last weekend I was invited to speak at an event where I met so many great people, and I have asked one question. Well, someone asked me a good question about a Subto loan that he's about to take over. And basically, well, let me put you in context. If you don't know what a Subto loan is remember that when we're buying a property or when someone is selling his property, there's two transactions involved. Basically, the seller transferred the deed into the buyer's name, and the current loan stayed in the seller's name, and basically the buyer is taking over that existing loan, which the buyer will get the benefit of the current interest rate on the Subto loan. The buyer doesn't need to qualify for that loan, and basically other benefits as well. So basically, the question that he asked me, it was he's about to take over an existing loan where the current loan is a FHA loan. So the answer for that is that there's three things that he needs to look at. So the first one is scenario number one is the seller is looking to buy another property in the next 30 or 60 days. I mean, the next month or so. The second scenario is he needs to sell, but he's not in a rush. Maybe he's moving out of state and he needs to buy maybe another property, maybe in the next 9 months, maybe after a year. And the third scenario, he's in distress and he's about to go into foreclosure. Basically, these are the three scenarios that you need to look at. Where the first one is the one that you need to know this information. So if the seller is looking to buy another property in the next 30 or 60 days, it's important that you draft a lease purchase contract with the seller, that basically that purchase contract is mirroring the Subto terms that you guys agree on the purchase agreement until the next purchase is completed. Once the next purchase is completed, where your seller buy the new home, then you can exercise that lease purchase agreement. It's important to use keywords, and basically the words are in the contract. The buyer is a Subto temporary buyer, and the seller is a temporary landlord. The terms of the lease purchase has to mirror the terms of the Subto contract. That way, the underwriter will cancel the PITI to reduce the DTI, which is the debt to income ratio. Because in the underwriting world, the lease purchase means that the contract has an open-ended date, and there's three calculations that you need to take in consideration depending on the Subto loan that you're taking over. And basically, there's if it is a conventional loan, then take the PITI and raise it 25% more. For example, if the current PITI is $2,000, take raise that for 25% more, because the underwriting guidelines require a haircut of 25, and with this 25% increase you can offset that haircut. Make sure that after that haircut, the lease purchase is equal to the current mortgage payment. At the end, what you need to make sure is that when you subtract that amount, the 25%, out of the new number, out of the new 25% increase, at the end, you have the same amount of the current mortgage. If it is a VA loan, you don't have to do that. Basically, it's a straight number. Basically, the lease purchase agreement needs to have the same amount of the current PITI. It's very important that during this process, you'll need to send the money out to the seller, meaning that, okay, you're going to fund the EMD, and let's assume that the PITI is 2,000 and the lease purchase agreement rent is 2,000 as well. So basically, you're send out the EMD to the escrow officer, or the title company or attorney, depending on the state. And then you will need to fund the rent, which is agree on the lease purchase agreement, to the seller. The seller needs to prove to the underwriting that that money came in into his bank account. But probably you will be asking me, but Alexi, how can I protect that money? So the only way to protect that money is that make sure that you are about to close in the next 2 days, and basically 48 hours of the closing date. All the documents are ready. That you have clear to close from this title company. And once you have that queue, then you wire the money 48 hours to the seller's account. The sellers prove that to the underwriter, and the underwriter can offset that from the DTI. If it is an FHA loan, it's more tricky because the FHA require two market rents and appraise on the sub two property to make sure the rent is close to the market rent. So meaning that on an FHA loan is tricky because FHA require to appraise that property and make sure that the rent that you agree on the lease option contract is based on the market rent. So also another common issue, if you're taking over an FHA loan, the seller is getting another FHA loan, two rules you need to beat on that scenario. So the number one is that the two properties, that the property that he's selling and the property that he's buying, both property needs to be on 100-mile radio, and they will require a bona fide economic reason for that, such as the spouse passed away and the seller can't afford the current payment. That could be one. The other one is that there's a new baby in the family or two babies in the family, and the house is not big enough. So now we'll need another house, a bigger house, right? And once you pass that barrier, now you need to pass another barrier, which is the sub two house you're buying must have 25% of equity verified by an appraisal in order for the list purchase income to be used to offset the PITI. So basically, these are the guidelines to take over a sub two loan, either a conventional loan, a VA loan, or an FHA loan.